The Dodgers don't have many question marks, but one of those question marks is Bobby Miller. What can we expect from the young right-hander? Let's talk about it. Let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On MLB for $20 off your first purchase. This is a daily podcast covering the World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us where we find podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. You can become an everydayer by listening or watching every day. And you can make that easier on yourself by subscribing to get notified when our episodes are ready or when we go live on YouTube. If this is your first time listening or watching, welcome. I'm Vince Samperio, usually joined by Jeff Snyder, but Jeff is out today. Jeff and I have been covering the Dodgers for over a decade now. We've been doing this podcast going into year 7. And, we've been Dodgers fans our whole life. So we've talked a lot of Dodgers. We've had the Dodgers as part of our lives for many, 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 many years. And we're continuing to allow the Dodgers to be part of our lives. And we're continuing to have expectations for young players that are on the Dodgers. And one of those players is Bobby Miller, who got us very excited after his rookie season in 2023. Had a little bit of a tough end in how the postseason game went for him, but then started off 2024 with one of his best performances, if not his best performance in the big leagues, and had us very excited. And then it all kind of went downhill from there. And, now Bobby Miller might not even start the year in the major leagues. And that's kind of crazy considering what he did in 2023 and the fact that, he was on the team for most of 2024, injuries and got sent down and everything else. But what do we think of Bobby Miller? I have no idea what to think of Bobby Miller at the moment. And that's not, strong analysis, but it's really one of those where we have to see how he is health wise and how he is, mentality wise, and how his, what adjustments he made. I don't think he got asked about any adjustments or anything that he made this offseason or anything that he focused on. I know Brandon Gomes talked a little bit and had mentioned that Bobby was maybe dealing with injury more than he let on, or even more than they wanted to think about, just for the simple fact of the Dodgers needed arms last year. Like, I don't think they intentionally pushed Bobby Miller when he was hurt, but I do think they kept throwing Bobby Miller out there when he wasn't maybe 100%. And that definitely affected him. And when you think about Bobby Miller, it's usually kind of split up into a couple of things. One of the biggest things that people, I want to know if, I don't know if criticize that maybe too strong of a word, but have opinions about him, is it's mental. And while I do think it's partly mental, I don't think it's all mental. I don't think Bobby Miller just shuts down and can't be a good pitcher. Like, I do think that there are times where it looks like he's in his head a little bit, or he does overthink things, or there's a lot going on in his mind, whatever it is, and it seems to coincide a little bit when he gets runners on. But for the most part, when you have runners on, you're probably pitching worse than you did if there's no runners on. But for him, it does seem, for Bobby Miller, it just seems like he'll let an inning get out of control, and maybe not all his fault, but a lot more innings get out of control when he's pitching than maybe other pitchers. And I think that's partly mental, partly, like I said, he didn't necessarily have his full health and best stuff last year. And I think there's reason to believe that he can be better. I just don't know how fast he can be better. And I do believe that a lot of things might have been different if Bobby Miller had a regular season last year, like similar to his rookie year, maybe slightly worse or slightly better. I don't know if the Dodgers, they probably still go after Blake Snell, but do they trade for Jack Flaherty? Like, there's different questions of what happens with that. They probably still do everything that they've done to this point. But it's definitely in the back of their mind that we might not have Bobby Miller as a major league quality starting pitcher. And I think some of the stuff we've seen so far just in this new year gives you reason for hope. One, obviously, a full off season or short off season, but a full off season of or actually he didn't pitch in October, so a full off season of health and or resting. You have video of him working in Arizona already, and doing the Yamamoto javelin tosses, whether that's for a specific purpose or just to try stuff and hope and see what works or see what doesn't work, or whether it's kind of weird to say for health purposes since Yamamoto got hurt last year, but everyone's body's a little bit different and might react to certain exercises a little bit differently. So the other part is people want to help. I mean, and not even people that are already on the roster have already been on the roster. Blake Snell, he went out of his way to bring up Bobby Miller when he was talking at FanFest and mentioned how he wants to kind of help mentor him and take him under his wing a little bit. And not sure if that's because he sees Bobby Miller's stuff and believes he can be a real asset for this team. Not sure if there's anything of, oh, I see myself in him, or whatever the case is. But if we take things at face value for what they are in terms of, okay, Bobby Miller, a combination of things, a little bit of a sophomore slump, a little bit of injury issue or not full health, and a little bit of bad luck and a little bit of this, a little bit of that, then you can see where the 2024 season came for Bobby Miller. And you just look at, different things in terms of how he pitched. And in 2023, he was pretty even across the board between five pitches. The four seam was his most used at 29%, but then you had sinker, curve, slider, changeup, all in range from 19 to 16%. Now, when you go to 2024, it changed a little bit, 10%. His fastball went up 10%, and he had changeup, curve in 20% range, and then sinker, slider, 14 and 10%, respectively. So he upped the fastball usage, and that's probably because it maybe didn't hurt as much if his arm was bugging him, and because that's really all he had. Like his fastball velocity was the one thing from 2023 to 2024 that did change, but not too much. His fastball velo was 98.9 in 2023, and it dropped to 97.5 last year. So, that could be contributed to by injury as well. All this to say, we don't know what to expect with Bobby Miller. I believe in him. I believe in the stuff. I believe in the Dodgers pitching gurus and everyone else. I believe in the guys they have in camp. I believe in the major league pitchers already on the roster. And at the very least, I believe Bobby Miller can be a very good reliever. You shorten that stuff into a 1 or 2 inning stint. You tell him pick your best three pitches or your favorite three pitches, and that's all you're going to throw. And I think he becomes a pretty good reliever. But I do think he has the stuff to be a legitimate, starting pitcher. And I hope that he can figure it out. I hope that he's healthy. And I'm obviously excited to see what he can do because early in the year, they are going to need arms. And Bobby Miller, could pitch his way into the starting rotation for sure. Competing with Gonsolin and May and Mack and Casparius and all these guys behind, the four that they already have in Snell, Yamamoto, Glasnow, and Roki. Bobby Miller can be that guy. And we've seen him be the most available pitcher, I guess you could say, the last couple of years. His rookie year came in and pitched way more than we thought. And even last year, he pitched probably way more than we thought, considering he wasn't good. But I'm on Bobby Miller's side. I believe in him, and I believe in the stuff, and I hope that he's healthy. I hope that he figured some stuff out, whatever it was, tweak to mechanics or tweak to pitch usage or sequencing or anything like that. But I'm excited to see what we get from Bobby Miller in 2024. Zuhara, we have Rob Manfred defending the Dodgers. We're going to get into that next, so make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. The big game's almost here, and there's no better way to make it even more exciting than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings awarded, Prize Picks makes it fun and simple to get in on the action. Price Picks is very simple. You pick more or less on at least two player stat projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. You can go all the way up to 6 players on their stat projections, picking more or less. And obviously, the more you pick right, the more you win. So make sure to go check out Price Picks, especially right now before the big game, because if Patrick Mahomes throws 1 yard, that's 1 square that you can have in your Price Picks lineup. You pair that with one other pick, and boom, you're cashing out. You pair that with multiple other picks, and boom, you're cashing out even more. So why not take the free square? Patrick Mahomes throws for 1 yard, and you're in on the game. There's also a bunch of promos that come out around the big game and around the weekend. So make sure to check out the promos tab on the Prize Picks app to see all of the big game lineups and promos and everything you can get in on. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to find us wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. You can become an everydayer by listening or watching every day, which can be made easier by subscribing to get notified when episodes are ready or when we're going live on YouTube. And if you're on YouTube already, you can check out Locked On Sports Today or Locked On Sports Los Angeles, 2 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network, bringing you the biggest news stories from the sports world and the LA sports world. All right. Not much analysis here, but did want to give an update. As we've said, we would only say his name when there are updates in the case. Ipe Mizuhara was sentenced to 57 months in prison in order to pay out $17 million back to Shohei Ohtani. I'm not sure if Ohtani is going to see that $17 million unless Ipe gets back into betting and hits big. But yeah, I mean, I don't have any strong feelings about this. I'm glad Ipe is getting what he deserves, and that's really all there is. Like he got what he deserves. If there are still people out there that believe that this was a cover up for Ohtani, I'm sorry you feel that way, and I'm sorry that you're not capable of having rational thought anymore. They don't. Not going to say they don't sentence people or put people in jail that are innocent, because there are cases of that. But yeah, there's nothing that shows that Ohtani had anything to do with this other than being naive and innocent, and maybe a little. The worst you could put on him is maybe a little dumb. I guess I don't know, like to trust people, but ultimately I'm not going to gaslight Ohtani. It's not his fault. Ipe will be in jail, and then he'll be on. He'll be looked at. I forget what it's called, and then he has to pay back Ohtani, which don't know that's going to happen. But we're all good on this end now, and there we go. Now, Rob Manfred, who Jeff uses a different name when he talks about it, but I'll just use his regular name. And this is maybe one of the few times that Jeff agrees with Rob Manfred, because he was defending the Dodgers in a sense. They were talking. He was talking about using the Dodgers as a model organization, and if they're ruining baseball or if something needs to change and blah blah blah. And Manfred said, "No, I don't agree with that. The Dodgers are a really well-run, successful organization. Everything that they do and have done is consistent with our rules. They're trying to give their fans the best possible product. Those are all positives. I recognize, however, and my email certainly reflects it, there are fans in other markets who are concerned about their team's ability to compete, and we always have to be concerned when our fans are concerned about something. But pinning it on the Dodgers, not in that camp. And obviously, we've talked a lot about this offseason, and yeah, it's if your team can't compete, it's not just the Dodgers' fault. If let's just say, okay, my team can't spend $1 billion in free agency. Can your team spend $180 million in free agency? Because that's what the Dodgers signed Blake Snell for. If one team spent 100, let's just say bumped it up to 200 mil. If one team spent 200 mil, Blake Snell is not on the Dodgers. If one team spent 90 mil, possibly Teoscar Hernandez is not on the Dodgers. Roki Sasaki is a different story because that one wasn't necessarily about money, and the Dodgers won that via showing how great the organization is. Now, possibly, if a team had spent the 200 mil to sign Blake Snell, and a team had spent 90 mil to sign Teoscar, and the Dodgers didn't have both of them, maybe that changes Roki's not mind, but maybe he thinks a little bit more like, okay, these guys aren't. Yeah, they have Ohtani and Freddie and Mookie, but do they have the depth necessary to continue to be good, or are they willing to continue to be good? I think the biggest thing with the Dodgers getting Snell and Tasker and everybody else was they're committed to being good. Michael Conforto. Now, maybe nobody was going to throw him more than 17 million for one season, but maybe he would have been tempted if someone offered him 2 years, 30 mil. And maybe he doesn't sign with the Dodgers, and then you take that from there. Kirby Yates was around all the way till January. If somebody had just given him 15 mil or 2 years, 24 mil or something like that, he probably wouldn't be around for the Dodgers. If somebody had given Tanner Scott, there's certain ones here that maybe not a lot of teams want to spend that much on a closer, and that's understandable. But again, he was available till the late part of the offseason. Now, can one team have taken all those from the Dodgers? I mean, theoretically, yes, but practically no. But if 5 different teams had taken one of those guys, then the Dodgers don't have any of them, or they would have had to pay more, or bid more, or whatever the case was. That's not the Dodgers' fault that nobody did that. Yes, the Dodgers are more stable revenue-wise than a lot of teams, but from data that we've seen, and maybe some of this data is misleading, and if there's anything to the contrary, I'd definitely be open to seeing that, because I don't know, but based on data that's out there, every team made money last year and had revenue, and had money to spend, and everyone owner, while you might not have the liquidity to spend and possibly take a L, you could easily just sell your team, make money. Every owner that would sell right now would make money on their original investment, I got to imagine. And then you can have all the liquid assets you want and not spend on it or spend on it, and bring someone else that maybe wants to win. And I think, we talk about salary cap, salary floor. I don't know if that's an answer, because you know, the NBA has salary cap, the NFL has salary cap, and there's been dynasties and repeat winners, and you know, LeBron was in the finals for like 10 straight years in the NBA at one point. And the Warriors had a dynasty, the Lakers had a dynasty in the early 2000s, the Spurs had, every other year dynasty. The the Celtics have been to the finals 2 of the last few years. So the NFL, the Patriots had a dynasty, the Chiefs have a dynasty right now. There's certain teams that are always in the mix. And while there might be more of a chance in the NFL for like the rags to riches story, like last place to first place, it's possible in MLB. The Tigers, who had them making the playoffs before the year started last year. The Royals, signed some guys, thought that they would be better, but maybe not guaranteed playoff spot. Nobody thought that. The D-backs a couple years ago, 84 wins, got in the playoffs, made the World Series. Like there's ways to go about it. There's ways to compete. Now, yes, the Dodgers. There's probably no competition for the division. And if you're a fan of an OS team, I don't know, does it really bother you if you're fighting for a playoff spot? Like at this point, what have you seen that shows winning the division is the almighty? There's nothing that shows that. Every team has the ability to compete. Every team has a chance. And, there's always surprise teams that make the playoffs. There's always surprise teams that make a run in the playoffs. What I do think is that you need some incentive to be a consistently winning team. And I know Jeff's talked about like fixing the draft to maybe do that. They've tried to do that a little bit with the draft lottery. The teams that have been the worst record haven't always gotten the number one pick. And a couple of teams that were like in the mediocre level of teams did get, top three picks. So I don't know if that's enough to push teams. Obviously not. We still see teams kind of, tanking a little bit, but there's a lot more here than the Dodgers, obviously. And, if you're not a fan of the Dodgers, I feel bad for you, but you still have a chance. And then when we're a month into the season and maybe you don't have a chance anymore, then yeah, that part sucks. But that's not because of the Dodgers. That's because your ownership and your team. Like the Marlins, the Mariners, are unfortunately situation. But Padres, like these teams they didn't spend, they didn't bring nobody in, they didn't try to get better. And that's not the Dodgers' fault. That's your fault. So all right, we're gonna talk about Miguel Rojas because we haven't given him enough love about being a selfless teammate, and then we'll get into a little bit about the guy that tried to get the ball out of Mookie's glove because now he's upset. So we're gonna talk about that. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Attending playoff games is an unforgettable experience that brings fans together, and I've been lucky to attend more than my fair share of playoff games, whether it's baseball or one time in football and in the NBA and in MLS. And there's a lot to be excited about when you go think about playoff games. And their thing you don't want to worry about is tickets. And Game Time is here to help you with that because they have Game Time picks, which makes getting tickets for events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats. So you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. If you're going to the playoffs, you're kind of in two boats. I just want to be in the building or I want to have good seats. Game Time can help you get in the building, but Game Time can also help you get those good seats with Game Time picks because you just want to find the best deals and the best seats. You don't want to have to go through all the tickets that are on sale and this and that and sitting in the upper levels. I want to sit in the mid to lower levels. I want to have a good view of the game and I want to be there. And Game Time picks can help you out and they can find you different seats for a lot of different things. It's not just playoff games, but also concerts, theater, comedy events. Anything with tickets, Game Time can help out. So make sure to get the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app today and create an account and use code LOCKDOWNMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account on the Game Time app. Redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Want to thank you for being an everydayer. If you are one, an everydayer is just someone that listens or watches every day. We appreciate you if you are one. If you're not one, but you are, you at least listen every week. We'd like you to up your listens by at least one episode a week. We appreciate that. And, if you're at 4, you might as well just get to the 5. If you're at 3, you can find yourself in that path getting to 5. And if you only listen once a week or whenever you can remember, try to remember one more time every week. And you can go beyond the podcast and Locked On Dodgers Insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. Get text directly from us, keeping you up to date with the Dodgers. And you can also get a link to our exclusive Discord server to talk Dodgers with other fans. I'm sure that'll get on and pop in once the season gets going. So make sure to join now before the season gets going. All right, let's talk about Miguel Rojas because we mentioned that he changed his number from number 11 to number 72, but I don't think we, properly gave him the credit he deserves for this. Now, Miguel Rojas is by no means a star player, and star players Clayton Kershaw's not giving up 22. That's star and longevity. Mookie Betts is not giving up 50. You know, even guys like Blake Trinan, they're not giving up whatever number they're wearing. But Miguel Rojas is a legitimate MLB veteran. He's been in the double digits in the league, and he's been around a long time, and he's been a great teammate, and he's a selfless player that we've seen, from one teaching Mookie how to play shortstop when he could have just said, Mookie, learn on your own, because if he doesn't learn it, then I'll be the shortstop, from playing multiple positions to doing whatever it takes for the Dodgers. And whatever it took for the Dodgers this offseason was giving up his number 11 in order for Roki Sasaki to feel more comfortable about potentially picking the Dodgers. And, Rojas talked a little bit about it. And for Rojas, it worked out too. He got to switch to number 72, which is a seemingly random number, but that's the number that he had when he came up with the Dodgers. And that's the number he was wearing when he saved Clayton Kershaw's no-hitter. So, shout out to number 72. At his opening press conference, Roki did say he's grateful for Rojas giving up number 11. He also mentioned that he hasn't decided what he's going to give Rojas, but he's going to start thinking about it. And Rojas talked about that. And he said, I don't need anything. I just want to win. I just want Roki Sasaki on my team, and that's what I'm looking for. When he was on, I think, the Chris Rose show or one of those shows, and he was talking about when Andrew Friedman called him, he missed the call, and Andrew Friedman said, just give me a call back. And Rojas thought he might be getting released or traded. And so he was, filled a little bit with anxiety, didn't know what was going on. Then he called back Friedman, and Friedman didn't get back to him for like a couple hours. So imagine like those 2 hours. Obviously, if it would have been a trade, he might have seen it in social media or something like that. But or maybe not. If nobody leaked it. So that's a kind of interesting, a funny story for Rojas. But then Friedman just kind of said, we're recruiting Roki, and he's asked for number 11, and Rojas gave it up without even questioning it. And it might seem like a small thing to some people, but it's kind of a big deal. You've had number 11 for so long, especially with Ron. You've established yourself with that number, and to give it up to someone. Let's just say the Dodgers had signed Juan Soto, and Juan Soto wanted number 11. Then yeah, you're going to give him number 11. But this is a rookie. Somebody that's never played in the big leagues before, somebody that he's been in the country, but, never lived in this country before. And it would have been very easy for Miguel Rojas to make some kind of fuss, but he didn't. And, he mentioned it obviously he wants the Dodgers to get Roki because he wants to win. So that's a big part of it. But he also said, when the guy's coming from a different culture, from a different country, I want him to feel comfortable. And if number 11 is one of those things that makes him feel comfortable, then by any means, he's going to let him have it. And that's just something that this Dodgers team as a whole, we've talked about, the unity and the culture and the camaraderie and everything else. And, they've all mentioned it as well. But something as simple as a number. I mean, last year, Joe Kelly's wife got the Porsche for Kelly giving up number for Ohtani. But Joe Kelly already given up the number. Ohtani didn't have to give him anything, but Joe Kelly had given up the number already. And Joe Kelly, again, another veteran guy who's had that number, who, is probably attached to that number for a certain reason, and without hesitation gave it up for Ohtani. Now, Ohtani is a little bit different than Roki in a sense because Ohtani was a multiple-time MVP, and the Dodgers could have easily said, "Oh, you don't want to give it up, Joe Kelly? Well, you're DFA." But they didn't have to because he gave it up. And Rojas in the same boat, and just wanted to make sure that we appreciate that because even though it might seem like a small thing to you, guys love their numbers, and sometimes it is a big deal, but you sacrifice for the greater good, and that's what Rojas did here. So. Finishing up the episode with a funny situation. So I think Jeff mentioned, or we mentioned in one of our episodes, that the guys that had grabbed Mookie's glove and wrist had been banned from MLB stadiums. And now this guy is somehow given more time in the limelight, but this time it's to complain about what's going on. And I want to start this off by saying I don't ever advocate, when someone does something wrong or for especially in sports, like something like this. If there's any threats or anything physical or anything that goes beyond, social media or goes beyond whatever it is, I don't condone that. Even harassment, like cell phone harassment, like if you find his number and now everyone's calling it, like I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't believe in that. I don't condone that. And that's where I'll start this. But the Yankees fan is kind of regretting everything now. And he said, all the stuff my family has had to deal with because of me, the nonstop phone calls, the people send me pictures of something. The packages, I guess there was a package sent to a house that was on record or an address that was found on his record. It ended up being his parents' house because he don't live there no more. But it was I guess there's a company that will send a package of feces. I would imagine not human. I hope, but to an address as either a joke or as a whatever it is. So I guess there's that one of those packages got there. And like I said, I don't condone that because leave it on social media, make fun of them, do whatever. But no, you don't need to take it to the next step. And I think that feels here. But also, let's not forget that this dude was very proud of what he did right after it happened, days after it happened. You know, someone interviewed him at the bar after the game or during the game, and he was very braggadocious. He went on a podcast with one of those media companies the next day and was very braggadocious. What he should be blaming though is Gronk. Rob Gronkowski is the one that put him out there a little bit more. I don't know if all these people would have seen that article that was written about him. I don't know if all these people would have seen that podcast that he did, but Gronk was like, "Oh yeah, this is this guy," and I know him, and Gronk was on his side. So like, a lot happened, but the dude is. I feel empathy a little bit in the stuff that I said I don't condone, but everything other than that, like, dude, you bragged about it, and not that you brought this upon yourself. But if you would have just did what you did and said, "Oh man, I messed up," and never said anything, we might have known your name because of Gronk, but it might have not been to the extent that it's been. And you know, the 15 minutes of fame isn't always what you want it to be. And unfortunately for him, that's what he got. But fortunately, that is what he brought upon himself in a certain way, in a way, not fully. But one of the quotes in there was kind of funny. I'm a hero in Yankees land. I'm a villain in America. I don't really care. I just want to be forgotten about. That's it. I want people to forget about me. And it's kind of sad, but it's also funny. Like, bro, first of all, you're not. Why are you a hero in Yankee land? Mookie caught the ball. You didn't do anything. Yeah, the Yankees went on to win that game. We didn't do anything. Like uh, uh, you didn't prevent Mookie from catching it, and then that guy ended up hitting a home run the same at bat. You didn't get in the way, or like you did nothing to affect that game, other than there was correlation or whatever causation, whatever it was, not causation, correlation is that they won that game that you did that. That's the only thing that happened. So I feel bad for him to a certain degree. I don't feel bad for him in general, and if you want to be forgotten about, the easiest way to be forgotten about is not do articles in the Athletic or anything. Just go away. Get out of don't. Now I see your name again. I wouldn't have seen your name again if you didn't do that article. So learn, my guy. And you can't go to baseball games anyway. So that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to subscribe and get notified when the episodes are ready or when we go live on YouTube. Check out Locked On Sports Today or Locked On Sports Los Angeles. Those are two 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. Go beyond the podcast, come a Locked On Dodgers Insider by going to joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. You can follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. You can find Jeff on Twitter at Snydog. I'm at Vince91. You can email us lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or you can send us a voicemail or text at 323-863-5625. We appreciate you for listening. You don't have to agree, but you do have to listen, and we'll talk to you later. Have a good one, and I bumbled the outro.